Atlanta was supposed to be a bounce-back week for Carson Hocevar after the Daytona heartbreak, and in a lot of ways, it was. He fought back from trouble, got himself into position again, and when the dust settled at Echo Park Speedway, the number 77 crossed the line fourth, a result most drivers would celebrate. But the reason Atlanta exploded online wasn't just because Hocevar finished top 5, it's because the final restarts turned into a full-blown debate about his style, the aggressive moves, the contact with Christopher Bell, the "you can't trust him" vibe from other competitors, and then Hocevar himself saying the most brutal thing a driver can say after being that close to his first Cup win. I mean, I choked. So in this report, we're breaking down 3 things: what actually happened in overtime, why the internet started throwing around the word cheating, what Hocevar said afterward, and what drivers like Bell and voices like Kyle Petty said that tells you why Hocevar is becoming one of the biggest storylines in NASCAR right now. Now, early disclaimer, and this matters. The cheating talk is not an official NASCAR claim. There's no penalty, no announced violation, no ruling that Hocevar did anything illegal. What people are calling cheating is basically a messy mix of fan frustration and driver trust issues after a chaotic overtime moment where one decision changes 3 other drivers' days in about half a second. And the reason it sticks to Hocevar more than most is simple. He already has a reputation. When he's in your mirror late, people don't assume he's going to politely ride. They assume he's going to take the gap if it exists, and sometimes even if it's closing. That brings us to the moment that set everything off. Late in the Autotrader 400, the race goes into overtime, and Hocevar lines up with a real shot. He's up front, he's got speed, and he's exactly where you have to be at Atlanta if you want your first Cup win. Close enough to make the decision and brave enough to live with it. On the first overtime restart, Hocevar restarts just behind Christopher Bell, and as the field launches, he sees daylight between Bell and Bubba Wallace. In real time, it looks like a split-second choice, because it is, and Hocevar tries to squeeze through to take the lead. Instead, contact happens, and Bell goes nose first into the outside wall, crushing the front of his car and killing his chance to win. That's the kind of incident that instantly divides fans into 2 camps. The camp that says, hard racing, welcome to Atlanta, and the camp that says, that's reckless, and it ruins somebody else's race. Bell's reaction is important here, because it shows how drivers talk when they're mad, but still trying to be fair. He didn't come out screaming cheater, he didn't even fully convict the move right away. He basically said, I'm not judging until I see it. But he also dropped one line that tells you exactly how Hocevar is viewed in the garage. Bell said, that's what he communicated to me, but you never expect anything.
Especially from him.
That's not a rulebook accusation. That's a trust statement. It's Bell saying, he told me one thing, but with Hocevar, you can't assume the restart is going to go the way you think. Bell even added that he hadn't seen a replay yet, and maybe there really was a hole, and that's what Hocevar thought he was filling. In other words, Bell left room for the possibility that Hocevar didn't wake up trying to wreck somebody, but the damage was done, and the label machine that is NASCAR social media did what it always does. It picked the most dramatic word possible and ran with it. Hocevar, for his part, didn't hide from what he attempted. He explained the move the way drivers actually think about these moments, not as morality plays, but as math problems happening at full speed. He said, I fit a car in there. Then he went deeper and basically admitted the core issue with moves like that at Atlanta. The closing rate is insane. A gap can feel open when you commit and be closed by the time your nose arrives. Hocevar said, I got such a big run and he kind of opened it, and as I got there, I felt like there was a hole, but I got there so fast that I'm sure it was by all means closed by the time I got there. That line is huge because it's a rare moment of honesty that explains why these incidents happen even when a driver isn't trying to create chaos. When you're getting pushed, when you're building a run, your car is accelerating into a space that is disappearing. Backing out sounds smart on Twitter. In the cockpit, backing out can also mean you lose the only shot you get. And Hocevar basically admitted that's how he races in those moments. If he feels the opening is there, he's going to take it because he's tired of being close and leaving empty-handed. He said, I felt like if I got an opportunity, I was going to shoot for it. He also mentioned the push behind him because in Atlanta's draft, nobody makes that kind of move alone. Hocevar pointed out he was getting help, saying the push from Ross Chastain made him believe the chance was real. With the push that Ross gave me, there was a shot there. So now zoom out. This wasn't Hocevar running around causing random trouble all day. This was Hocevar in a win moment, taking a win swing, and the swing created a massive consequence. And yet, despite all the noise, despite the dust-ups, despite being the center of another "what is this guy doing" debate, Hocevar still finished 4th. He didn't self-destruct. He didn't end up on the hook. He didn't go from contender to 28th. He brought home a result. Even more telling, he reminded everyone he had to fight for it. He said he came from 2 laps down, got knocked around, and still clawed his way into the top 5. And he compared it to Daytona in a way that shows he's thinking like a driver trying to level up, not a driver trying to win the internet. We finished single digits top 5, a better result than last week. week, he said, after Daytona ended with him leading late and then crashing. But the real headline didn't come from the finish. It came from how brutally he judged himself in the moment that mattered most. Because even with the 4th place finish, Hocevar was on the front row in double overtime with allies behind him, and he knows that's a scenario you don't get every week, especially when you're chasing your first cup win. That's why he didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't act like 4th is good enough. He said what he felt. "I mean, I choked." That's the kind of quote fans remember because it's not polished, it's not protected. It's a driver admitting he didn't execute the final sequence the way he wanted, and he's owning it publicly. He also admitted he's trying to evolve. This is another part of the story that gets lost when everyone only clips the wreck. Hocevar said he felt like he did a good job overall because he wasn't just sending it non-stop. He was biding time and being more selective. "I was sitting there riding around for a while and biding my time and felt like I've been more patient but more precise," Hocevar said. And he even acknowledged that patience doesn't always save you when your car is tight and you're trying to fight for air. He mentioned Ryan Blaney being upset and basically admitted he owes him one because he felt like he ran them both toward the wall. That matters because it shows Hocevar isn't clueless about how he's perceived. He knows he's in people's way sometimes. He knows he makes moves that upset veterans. He's not denying it. He's balancing it against the one thing he cares about, being in position to win. And this is where the wider NASCAR conversation kicks in, because Hocevar is becoming the kind of driver people argue about like a main character. Some fans look at him and see recklessness that will eventually bite him. Others see a young driver who is constantly in the fight, constantly near the front, and learning faster because he's willing to put himself in the hardest situations. That's why Kyle Petty's take lit up the internet after Atlanta. Petty didn't give a cautious, measured answer. He went all in and basically predicted Hocevar is going to be a star, comparing his attitude to some of the most famous aggressive personalities NASCAR has ever had. You don't have to agree with Petty to understand what it signals. People inside the sport are already framing Hocevar as the next love him or hate him figure. And the standings back it up. Through 2 races, Hocevar is 4th in points, which means even with controversy around him, he's stacking results. That's how reputations get cemented. If you're controversial but finishing 19th, people laugh it off. If you're controversial and consistently top 5, people start saying, okay, this is becoming a problem. So here's the cleanest way to put Atlanta in simple NASCAR terms. Hocevar didn't cheat. What happened is that Atlanta delivered another overtime knife fight. Hocevar took a win-level risk. Bell got burned by it, and the garage reaction was less about rules and more about trust. Then Hocevar walked out of it with a 4th place finish and the most honest quote of his season so far: "I choked." And that's why this storyline is only getting louder, because the more he keeps ending up in these moments, the closer he gets to the day when the move works, the finish sticks, and the entire narrative flips from he's reckless to he's inevitable. Now, I want your take. Do you see Hocevar as the future superstar who races like he has nothing to lose? Or do you think these late race swings are crossing the line and costing other drivers too much? Drop your opinion, because with Hocevar, the debate is basically the point. If you want more NASCAR news breakdowns like this every day, with the real who said what and the real fallouts, hit like, subscribe to NASCAR Central, and share this with one NASCAR friend. We're pushing for 5,000 subs and 1,000 likes on this video, and I appreciate every single one of you helping this new channel grow.